The story begins at the end of a game that had consumed 3 long years of the protagonist's life, yet for him, a hardcore gamer from Japan, those years felt painfully short. The ending left him unsatisfied, even insulted, and he dismissed the experience as a trash game unworthy of his dedication. What he truly desired was a challenge that would last at least a decade, something brutally unfair, poorly balanced, and demanding absolute commitment. With that craving in mind, he immediately searched the internet for the most infamous hardcore game imaginable, one known for punishing players without mercy. The moment he finished typing his query, his monitor flickered, and the familiar glow of his room was replaced by the scenery of a vast, unfamiliar landscape. A message appeared from an unknown company, offering him access to a fantasy game of swords and magic that supposedly had no ending at all. Intrigued rather than alarmed, he examined the settings and found the usual difficulty options, easy and normal, alongside a strange third choice labeled Hell Mode. Its description warned that regret would be meaningless, that players would face utter despair, and that leveling would require 100 times more experience than normal mode. Having seen countless exaggerated warnings over the years, he scoffed at the threat and selected Hell Mode without hesitation. He then browsed the available classes: Swordsman, Spear User, Sword Master, Hero, even Demon Lord. One class, however, stood out: the Summoner. Its difficulty rating was inexplicably far higher than all the others, and a note stated that it was still in alpha testing. To him, that only made it more appealing. Smiling at the prospect of exploiting a broken, unfinished system, he chose Summoner, clicked Start, and unknowingly agreed to become a living test subject. In an instant, his body vanished from his room. A lukewarm, oddly soothing sensation enveloped him, but it quickly turned tight and suffocating, as though the world itself were pressing in. When the pressure finally released, he emerged screaming into a new world as a newborn baby, abruptly realizing that he had not merely entered a game but had fully experienced the reincarnation trope. His father held him with joy and pride, announcing that he had already chosen the name Alan. Accepting this new identity with surprising calm, the protagonist left behind his former life as Kenichi Yamada, a 35-year-old uneducated, broke, and romantically inept office worker. Now reborn as Alan, he could not speak or move freely, yet his mind remained fully intact. He could think clearly, understand the language around him, which appeared to be Japanese, and observe his surroundings with the detached awareness of a veteran gamer. He learned that he had been born into a serf family living in a nameless frontier village, where pioneers paid heavy taxes to a ruling lord in exchange for the right to cultivate land. His father, Rodin, was a hardworking and honest man, while his mother, Theresia, was gentle, beautiful, and deeply affectionate. Although Alan was currently their only child, he could already tell from their youth and closeness that siblings were only a matter of time. One evening, after Theresia put him to bed and left to eat dinner with Rodin, Alan finally found himself alone and attempted to open his status window. Nothing happened. Despite the comfort of being pampered as a baby, frustration gnawed at him. He could not access his summoner abilities at all. After countless failed attempts, he nearly gave up, but decided to try one final time. A brilliant light suddenly appeared above him, and a book materialized out of thin air. Startled, he screamed, causing his parents to rush in. Thinking quickly, he dismissed the book and pretended to sleep, leaving Rodin and Theresia confused but relieved when they found nothing wrong. Once alone again, Alan sat up and summoned the book once more, finally beholding his grimoire after a full year of effort. His status showed him as a level 1 summoner, and the grimoire explained that his core skills, summon and create, had separate experience bars that leveled through usage. At present, he had 0 experience and could only create rank H insects and beasts, the absolute lowest tier imaginable. One page displayed a message from the god of creation, Elmia, thanking him for his patronage and apologizing for the delayed delivery of the grimoire due to bureaucratic issues surrounding the experimental summoner class. The message ended with a blunt warning that no questions or cancellations regarding class selection would be accepted. Unbothered by divine red tape, Alan immediately tried to summon an insect, only to realize that he first needed to use the create skill. When he did, a card appeared before him, a rank H insect card granting +1 endurance and +1 agility. Though laughably weak, Alan viewed it as a monumental first step. Just as he prepared to summon the creature, Theresia entered the room, forcing him to hide the card and feign sleep, resolving to continue the next day. When he finally activated the card during his nap, it dissolved into light and formed a large grasshopper that immediately leapt at his face before hopping out of the room. Consulting the grimoire, Alan learned he could name the creature Denka and discovered a crucial mechanic. Merely holding the card in his inventory applied the creature's stats to his own body. Overjoyed, he shouted, only for the Theresia to rush in and panic at the sight of the giant insect, stomping it flat without hesitation. Over the following days, Alan continued experimenting and created a rank H mouse named Mousy, which, while stupid, at least followed simple commands. He soon realized that although his summons were useless in real combat, he could stock up to 10 cards of each creature type, and the buffs stacked. By holding 10 Mousy cards, his attack stat increased enough for him to surpass the physical strength of a normal baby. Aware of Hell Mode's brutal experience requirements, he accepted that progress would be painfully slow. One evening, Rodden returned home covered in blood, frightening Theresia until he explained it came from a great boar he had hunted. He proudly carried Alan outside to see the carcass, pointing out birds called alba herons along the way and explaining that he had named Alan after them because of their freedom to roam the skies. Seeing the massive boar up close terrified Alan, making him realize how insignificant his current power was. Gerda, a neighbor, praised Rodden for the kill and remarked on how unusually composed Alan seemed for his age, later explaining that great boars were C-rank monsters requiring at least 20 men to defeat. Alan stored that information away as a future benchmark. Months passed, and by the time he was nearly 2, Alan reached level 2 inches both summon and create, unlocking expansion level 1, a notes feature, fusion skills, and increased inventory space. However, he quickly discovered that his mana points severely limited his progress, preventing him from fusing cards or creating higher-rank creatures until his MP naturally grew. By age 3, his MP had increased enough to allow more experimentation, including successful fusion that resulted in a rank G bird named Chappie, capable of perfectly mimicking voices. He also created Hopper the Frog, whose provoke skill drew attention, and Molly the Mole, whose dig skill created pitfall traps. The strategic depth thrilled him, reminding him of the hardcore systems he loved, until he accidentally fell into his own trap. Around the same time, Krenna, Gerda's daughter, already infamous as Krenna the Fierce, dragged him into brutal mock sword fights that he consistently lost despite stacking agility buffs. When Theresia later revealed she was pregnant again, Alan volunteered to help in the fields, only to be firmly refused by his parents, who wanted him to enjoy his childhood before the harsh life of a serf claimed him. Though he agreed outwardly, Alan secretly vowed to change their fate. As winter arrived and a chain of events led to the birth of his baby brother Mash, Alan found himself questioning his reincarnation. He still wanted to conquer this Hell Mode world and push its systems to their limits, but more than that, he now genuinely cared for his family. Watching his parents and newborn brother, he made a silent promise to use his powers not just to satisfy a gamer's pride, but to free them all from the endless grind of serfdom.